All right, so now it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speakers. We have two of them today. We have Rob Fenn, KC6 TDY, and Mark Meltzer, AF6IM, from Parachute Mobile.
All right. Ooh, is that loud?
Yeah.
Wake up. So, the salmon was good. Was it good?
Yeah.
That was yummy. So thanks Pacificon. What a great banquet you guys put out, and man, that was good. I do have a suggestion though. For the admission price, I think we should all get a second Yesu hat. What do you think? What do you think? Because if this one gets dirty, we got another one. All right, so as you can see, I am expecting about 8.5 months of fine walks and growing. And based on the last ultrasound, there's a rubber duck, so it's male. Okay, so hello everybody, I'm Rob, KC6TYD. I'm the Parachute Mobile Team Coordinator. When I started with Parachute Mobile, I was not a skydiver. This gentleman here, Mark, asked me to be the safety coordinator, and he'll tell you all about how he created this. It's his fault. And I tell you, to be able to be in a hobby of ham radio and also be in a sport and combine them two, talk about a great midlife crisis, I tell you. It's just great. So, they give us a little bit of time. We have a lot to cover. Since they didn't give us a teleprompter to keep us on time here, we got our notes, and so sorry if we're looking at our notes to keep us going. So we got a lot to go through, and hopefully we can let you live vicariously about what we do. But real quick, how many's made a Parachute Mobile contact? Woohoo! Okay. All right.
Good evening. My name is Mark Meltzer. My call sign is AF6M. I'm very honored that you invited me and my esteemed colleague Rob, KC6TYD, to this banquet. We'll both present information about our novel combination of two hobbies, ham radio and skydiving. I'm a fairly recent ham, but I'm one of the oldest jumpers in the sport. I turned 75 in a few days, and I've been jumping. For over half a century. I plan to stay in the sport until I can no longer remember how to deploy my parachute. So far, so good. I want to thank both Marconi and Da Vinci, who reportedly, and I know there's some dispute about this, were the inventors of radio and parachutes, respectively. I know there's a lot of disputes about it, but most people agree that they had at least some major contributions in both of those areas. I also wish to thank Julie Ma and all of her hard-working volunteers for putting on this incredible event. It's just another example of what I love about ham radio, and that is people working for their common good without compensation and putting in long hours at sometimes boring tasks just for the benefit of their fellow radio operators. I think we ought to give them all a huge hand. I also want to thank the ARRL and our own Kristen McIntyre, first VP. We are very happy to have her representing our interests. She's a very serious ham radio operator, and I think we are very well represented by having her as a VP in the league. One of the very first things I did when I got licensed was to join the ARRL. Like most of you, I don't agree with every single thing they do, but without them, most of the frequencies that we still enjoy use of would have long ago been forfeited to commercial interests, and I don't think anybody else but the league has been waging a truly effective fight to preserve ham radio frequencies, so I'll always be a league member. Now people ask, it's a common question and it's kind of a joke, like why would you jump out of a perfectly good airplane? And what I say is you haven't seen our airplanes. Things are a lot better now. Like today we jumped out of a $1 million Cessna 208 turbine jump ship. It can hold about 16 jumpers, very powerful, very reliable. But it wasn't always that way. When I started jumping in 1968, the common large jump ship was a DC-3. We jumped out of Lockheed Lodestars, Beech 18s. Any of you know what those airplanes are? Okay. And this isn't too far from the truth. The joke was they started out as executive transports and airliners, and when they got too worn out for that, they started hauling parcels. And when they were too unreliable for that, the dope smugglers took them over. And when the dope smugglers would no longer fly them, they went to drop zones. I entered the ham radio community in 2008, and I got lucky on the exam. I entered as an extra, and it was gratifying to me, but it was also kind of a hindrance because people expected that I knew a lot more than I did. I was actually pretty ignorant about operating procedures and rules and so forth. And that's when I found out how wonderful the community was. I mean, instead of, if I made a mistake, if I made a protocol error or a ham radio etiquette error, instead of jumping all over me, people courteously helped me do it the right way. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful community that we have. And all you have to do is try a few other hobbies to see how good this one is. I came into both radio and parachuting kind of from childhood interests. When I was just a little kid and everyone was playing with toy soldiers, for some reason I was fascinated with paratroopers, and I made little parachutes for all my soldiers. Everybody else's soldiers were fighting on the ground. Mine were coming in from the air. When I was 12 years old, my parents were taking me and my 3 younger brothers on a camping trip, and we passed through the town of Calistoga, which at that time had a very active drop zone right in the middle of the town. And when I saw the parachutes coming down, I yelled at my dad, "Dad, we gotta stop, we gotta stop." And my brothers just had no interest. "No, let's keep going, we wanna swim in the lake." And we did stop, and I just became fascinated with it. The people were very nice to me, let me help fold some parachutes. And I said, "I really want to skydive." They said, "Well, will your parents sign a liability waiver?" And I asked my parents. Sure. They were free-range parents. I mean, if we'd pay for it, we could do it. So I tried and tried from age 12 to age 18. Nobody would train me. They just wouldn't do it. The liability exposure was too big. So just right after my 18th birthday, literally within a few days, I took a skydiving course out at the old Oakland Northfield Airport. And then a few days later, made my first jump over Livermore, California, and I've been hooked ever since. So, and my interest in radio came about in kind of a roundabout way. My father was a commercial fisherman. I longed to follow in his footsteps. That's what I wanted to be, and actually I did that for a while. I was a deckhand, but I wanted to be up in the wheelhouse drinking red wine, not gutting fish and icing them down. And at age 17, I actually became one of the youngest skippers on the West Coast. I leased a 40-foot salmon trawler and fished basically between Monterey and Crescent City, and did pretty well. I was kind of the butt of a lot of jokes. They called me baby captain on the radio. And I couldn't go into the rough waterfront bars in like Eureka, Noyo River, places like that, which was probably a good thing because I wasn't 21. But I became fascinated with the radios. The radios were a lifeline. Back then it was 2 megahertz to 3 megahertz AM marine band. And I just became fascinated with how they worked. I did some really stupid attempted modifications of my father's radio, including I read that the higher the tube plate voltage was, the more power it would put out. So I substituted a much higher voltage dynamotor for the one that he had and burned up his final tube. But fortunately, tubes were dirt cheap back then. And then I got into military surplus electronics. We didn't have a lot of money, and things like they didn't have GPS back then. They had Loran A, and that operated. Coast Guard operated those stations right in the 160-meter ham band. They were quite powerful and quite accurate. It was hard to use, but it was decent accuracy. Not like GPS, but you could get within a quarter mile. And so I converted some World War II surplus Loran gear and automatic direction finders for use on my dad's boat, and that kind of got me into radio. I read the technical manuals that were prepared by the Army and the Army Air Corps during World War II. And fortunately, they were written not for college-educated people, but for people who were drafted and who enlisted, and they were incredible. I mean, some of you ought to look at those now and see how good the technical writing was back then. They had very detailed flow charts, troubleshooting diagrams, failure analysis, flow charts, and all that. And even an then uneducated kid could actually get that stuff working. So my dad agreed to teach me commercial fishing, but only if I promised not to pursue it as my lifelong career. He said, you can use it to make money for college, but that's where you're going. So when it came time to apply for colleges, he handed me the San Francisco Examiner and said, I want you to read the want ads. And I said, why? He said, just read them. So I read them, and he said, well, what did you see? I said, I saw jobs. What else do you think I would see? He said, do you see any ads for historians? See any ads for anthropologists? I said, no. He said, what did you see? I said, most of them are engineers. He said, that's what you're majoring in. So I fortunately got admitted to UC Berkeley back in the days where you didn't have to have a 4.2. There were no 4 anywhere in my grade point average. I was a B student, but I got in. And that started my career, and I co-founded the UC Berkeley Skydiving Club. The adrenaline rush you get from free fall is incomparable. I don't know anything else that compares that's legal. I've been jumping since 1968. I jumped today. I made radio contacts, hopefully, with some of you. Any of you work AF6IM today? Good. I'll let Rob pick it up. There's a lot to talk about tonight.
Nope, you're still up.
I'm still up?
Tell us
Okay.
about your hey-ho.
Oh, well, my first, I started the parachute mobile concept with Michael Gregg. He's a ham. And what's his call sign?
K6WFW.
WRW, something
like
like
that.
that. Anyway, we were talking on the NFI repeater over in the peninsula. It's a 2-meter repeater. It's a pretty active group in the morning. And he mentioned that he skydived, and I thought, hey, I do too. Have you ever thought about combining ham radio and skydiving? He said, no, let's try it. So we got it going. And my idea was to make very high altitude jumps, like 24,000 feet, and have a lot of time to talk to people and so forth. And we don't talk during free fall. The noise is, so many decibels, it's not even worth trying. But we open under canopy, and that gives us a lot of hang time. And I have made 2 jumps from 24,000 feet, so it can be done. You have to take oxygen and other stuff. But we find it's just impractical. Too much equipment. And the drop zones don't want to take you up that high. They just, it takes too much fuel, and not enough people want to pay for a jump that high. So we decided to just do regular skydives, which are typically 14,500 feet. Today Rob went to 15,000, I went to 13,000. We've made jumps at Monterey, Skydive Monterey, from 18,000, but all of those you can do without oxygen. 18,000 is pushing it, but you can do it. The thing evolved, Rob got involved, and I really have to, when I talk about gracious, generous, hardworking colleagues in ham radio, nobody exemplifies that better than the man standing on my left. He has done so much for this hobby of ours. He has designed better safety gear, he has re-engineered a lot of the equipment that was, it's a hostile environment up there. Even in the first stage of free fall, we can't open immediately out of the plane. We have to stabilize. So, we reach speeds probably of, some of us are close to 100 miles an hour by the time we deploy. And things start fluttering, and connectors that are just fine when you're just walking around come apart, wires break. It's just a really hostile environment for electronics. And you also have to be extremely careful not to route a wire or a tie wrap or some tape around some critical part of the parachute gear. So it really wouldn't take much to render both the reserve and the main parachute undeployable. So Rob has been extremely safety conscious. I wanted him to be our safety director, and he came up with printed checklists, which I've never seen skydivers use. They're incredibly important, and they prevent a lot of preventable errors, but we are the only people using them, and Rob prepared them. And I wish that would spread through skydiving, but it hasn't. And to tell you just how what the consequences of improper preparation are. I was at this huge skydiving meet called the World Free Flow Convention, which is no longer held, but it used to be held every August in Illinois, and they would have at the peak 5,000 jumpers. It was, we had C-130s, DC-9 jet, helicopters, balloons, DC-4, B-17, B-24. We just had an amazing array of jump ships. Well, I was on a DC-3 at 14,000 feet, and we were on jump run, which means, you're getting ready to go out the door, and I look across the aisle, and this guy has his chest strap unfastened. It would have been almost certain death. There's a chance he could stay in your harness, but it's not a real good chance. So that never would happen if you had a printed checklist, but for some reason, Rob's great idea has not spread throughout the sport. But he has done so much. I jump out of the plane, but all the hard work, this guy.
Well, so what we do now, since we're not going to be jumping up in the clouds with, Skyliners up there at 30 grand, we focused on using the unique platform of skydiving to see what cool amateur-related stuff we can come up with. And, we're kind of like these folks. POTA, SOTA, all that kind of thing. But the thing to remember about those groups is they have hours to prepare, they've got picnic tables to be on, and it's a chill environment that, they can sit back and drink their coffee. For us, this event is in a very, here, let me show you. That's our POTA, if you want to call it. And we have only, 2 by 2.5 feet of real estate, and that's our world right there, for the ham radio part of it anyway. And I'll explain this all more later. By the way, that was a ham radio flashing. Isn't Pacificon exciting? All right. Why don't you tell us about chutes now? You were kind of heading in that direction, Mark.
Okay, when I started out in skydiving in 1968, I didn't have any money. The good thing is that there was an abundant amount of military surplus gear available back then. Radio gear, parachute gear, airplanes, trucks, jeeps, that kind of stuff. So I bought a complete skydiving outfit, which was a main parachute, the harness, the container, the reserve container, the reserve parachute, ripcord, all the stuff, even an altimeter. $75. Today, in commercial sport parachute gear, you can push $8,000-9,000 for a rig?
Oh, yeah.
Even more. Wow. So it's interesting that, I don't know, are you displaying the canopy? Yeah, the canopy in the middle is called a C9. It's a 28-foot nylon canopy, incredibly strong, incredibly reliable, but it lets you down fast. They are still used today. Even the SR-71 ejection seats had the C9 canopy. And the military stays with what's tried and true, and they also want people who eject to land pretty close to each other. If you have a high lift parachute, low drag, high lift, they can end up miles apart. These C9 round canopies and ones that are similar to them that paratroopers use are drag devices. They don't have lift. And the good thing is you don't have to have any experience to use them. You just go down. You can steer them a little bit if you put steering vents in them, but they mostly control where you're pointing, not where you're going, because they don't have much forward speed. And they were superseded by the canopy you see on your right, which is called a ram air canopy. And if you look closely, you can see openings in the front part of the canopy, and as the canopy inflates, it forms the shape of an airfoil, and this is actually a wing. And you can go a long distance, and they have a glide ratio of about 3.2 to 1, so if you're at 15,000 feet, you can go 45,000 feet, which is, a few miles. The bad thing about them is you can crash them, you can stall them. It takes some skill to fly them properly. You have to flare them when you land because you're coming in pretty hot. Like today, I had to do a butt slide because I was coming in really fast. I was coming in probably about 23 miles an hour. And there was no headwind. It was like, 2-3 miles an hour, Rob?
It was low winds.
And I can't run the difference between 4 and 23, so I had to do a kind of an inglorious butt slide, but no injuries. We like to jump with a little bit of a headwind because it slows down the parachute. And Some people jump really small. These are called ram air canopies. Some people call them squares because of their rectangular shape. And the smaller they are, the faster they fly. And some people pride themselves on flying really tiny ones. But I'm conservative. I have this thing I jumped today was 210 square feet. But there's some people of my weight, my size, who jump canopies of 90 square feet, and that's pretty hot landing. They've got to have some headwind. Okay. Next up.
Let's see, what is it next up?
Oh, yeah.
Wes, tell us about this event here. I'm going to play this video.
Okay.
Let me make sure, we'll play that first.
You want to play the video first?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Hey, Michael. Well, you know, get a little punchy up there at 18,000 without oxygen, but exit was fine, beautiful view. I tossed my parachute at 16,000 feet. It was fully open, and it took a long time to open. I guess it was terminal velocity. I was open at about 15,000. Got a lot of QSOs. A little chilly up there, but at about 7,000 feet, I wasn't going to make a drop, so it was aloft really nice. I had to stow my brakes and get to drive an extra airspeed. A lot of wind noise in my microphone.
Okay.
But
So you have partial brakes while you're making radio contacts to keep the airspeed down.
that's correct.
Okay. So non-spec, can you describe that to non-spec, to the square parachute?
Sure. The square parachute has a way pulling control lines to deflect the right or left rear surface of the parachute. If you pull it together, it's equivalent to flaps on an airplane that deploys symmetrically and give you more lift and less speed. When I deployed, I left the brakes stowed, so you open in basically a brake condition, and that made me a fairly slow airspeed. But I noticed I wasn't going to make the drop, so the winds aloft were pretty high, and I needed more drive, so I had to stow my brakes to go into a full speed flight. That put a lot more wind across my microphone. People had a hard time reading me below about 7,000 feet, but it all worked out. Landed on the landing zone, stayed up landing, and it just feels so good to have everybody out there helping out.
There you go. Do you have any comments on that?
That was at Skydive Monterey on an 18,000 foot jump. It was fun. We do most of our jumps now out at Byron, which is kind of close to Tracy. It's right over the Alpine Pass where all those windmills are. We call them skydiver blenders.
There you go. And you already touched on planes. Here's a couple pictures. I like the DB Cooper one there.
Yeah, actually, you may have seen me on TV. These programs on DB Cooper always call me up because I'm known to have made a jump from a jet airliner. The other reason they call me up is they don't charge an appearance fee.
And of course, here's our favorite plane. That's the one we jumped out of today. I tell you, man, the Cessna 208 Caravan. I've been in Otters, Twin Beach, yeah,
King Air.
King Air. That's what I was trying to say. The King Air. I've been in the PAC, a very specially designed Australian plane specifically for skydiving, and you are definitely packed in that one. I don't like those planes.
And I jumped out of helicopters, balloons, gliders. I made the only balloon ride I've ever had was with my wife Sarah, who's here. And I left her in the balloon and I jumped out at 6,500 feet.
All right. Let's change over to our illustrious jumpers that we've had over the years. So, as I indicated earlier, I first did some non-radio jumps back with Mission 19, and then I framed my first radio jumps with Parachute Mobile back with Mission 22. That was 2015. That was actually Pacificon too. Look at that, 10-17. We then had Troy Bigelow for a year. He's a air traffic control, and he did about 4 jumps with us for a year, and then he retired and he moved up to Washington, I think it was. We had one jump with Brian Seaprist here years back, and of course, some of you today probably got a contact with Dimitri today. He's been with us for, actually his first jump was last year, I think, during Pacificon. He's now done, no, I think it was at the beginning of the year, but anyway, he's done three or four jumps with us, and having a great time. Edward here, W4ERH, he is brand new ham, but I knew him as a skydiver out at the drop zone, and we didn't even connect until we finally go, oh, I know you. And today he was on the ground training. And so we're hoping to have another skydiver in the air very soon. Okay, so probably some of you already heard about Carlos here. Carlos yeah, there you go. Carlos is very popular because he actually has a YouTube channel, and that's his specific market. He's a tandem instructor over at Illinois, and so him and I are corresponding, and I've actually used some of his ideas that he does, and I asked him to chime in because, you know, he represents this whole hobby as well. So let's see what Carlos has to say for us.
Hi, I'm Carlos, K9OL. And just like the rest of us observed, I do parachute mobile. The majority of my jumps are in the Midwest, and I have done a variety of jumps using UHF, VHF, and HF equipment. I've taken something from as small as a handheld to 14,000 feet to something as large as an Icon IC7300. I also have a range of challenges and opportunities for making different kinds of contacts, and I'm having a blast with it. My channel on YouTube is Life at Terminal Velocity. If you're looking to make a keystone with me, you can keep an eye on a number of places where I make postings about it. Among them, my Patreon page, also Discord, Toad's Discord, K5YBY Discord, the HRCC Discord, and any other place that I manage to let people know. But those are my normal standby places for making notifications. No, I cannot tell you when my next jump will be, and no, I cannot tell you what frequency it will be, because I find that out roughly about an hour before I make a jump. I work in skydiving, I am a skydiving instructor, and in order for me to make these jumps, I have to take time off and not leave my colleagues stranded with all the work. So if you're looking specifically for what I'm jumping next, that's going to be a dicey proposition. Hope to catch you all in the air. I know the rest of this crew is also having a blast. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll catch you down the block. 7-3.
There you go. Back in 2015, you may have saw an article they did in QST. Yay, we were so proud of that. Okay, as Mark pointed out, here's our safety checklist. On one side's ham radio gear, on the other side's our parachute gear, and we just want to make sure everybody knows that we don't do this just off the hip. Safety, safety, never takes a vacation. How do we carry all this stuff now? So way back here in mission, well, that's mission 2, 2009. You can see Mark here wearing one of these coaxial kind of first responder kind of radio packs. And at that time, it was just a radio, and I think we had another one for recording. I think that was our recording radio. And life is good, but you know, things we have to set the bar higher. So eventually, we had to add more things. And then when we incorporated APRS, we had was it Agilent? No, not Agilent. I can't remember what it is. Anyway, it was a tracker APRS unit that, you know, once you turn it on, fire, forget. I decided, well, I don't need that on the outside. Why don't I just make this shirt pocket, a little keeper for the wires and stuff, and what you'll do is you'll wear that inside your jumpsuit, and then I don't need to worry about it on the outside. You can actually see in that bottom right picture down here, that little pocket there is for the hockey puck, for the GPS, right behind his neck there, because everything else was covered. And for many, many missions and jumps, it worked out fairly well. But eventually what happened is we needed something more modular, or not modular, more plug and play. Because every time we started adding things, it took a while to set up, and we decided to get these vests. The top left vest there is a paintball vest. And it has the little hard covers with a little grommet. I'm not quite sure what that grommet was for. And it worked out fine. Unfortunately, once again, as our minds got creative and we needed to add more radios, we needed to be more modular. And so we eventually went with these 511 tactical vests. And what's nice about those is they have the molly loops, and I can now rearrange the real estate any way I want. I'm not stuck to one pattern. So if I need a radio down here now, or I need to move it over here, I can do that. So it worked out great. Oh, by the way, MOLLE, I never knew this, is an acronym, not just a name of a vest. It stands for Modular Lightweight Load Carrying Equipment. Wow, you learned something. Okay, and you can see the bottom right, terrible picture, but that's basically my vest setup to this day. And I add a little bit of extra to my setup. So as you see, I will demonstrate real quick, because we're running out of time here. All right, so when I'm actually on the plane, I have a rubber ducky antenna over here. And I actually want to listen to the crew and listen to people as I'm going up in the plane. So I have an antenna switcher, and I have it on that rubber duck. But sometimes when we're up there and the antenna's right next to our body, we get a little bit of body fade. So I fix that by a folding J-pole. And I just deployed out, oh, that didn't work so well, did it? Well, you get the point. It follows behind me. And then I switch it over to the J-pole, and people seem to hear me better, and I can hear them better. So that's why I just add a little switcher here. Up here is, I'll get to that in a second. QSO radio is over here, and there's the, I'll have an example over there later, but I have the streaming camera, yeah, right here. Streaming camera here, and then we have a transmitter on our foot. And once again, the radio vests are great because they just have everything ready to stow and you just put it on and go. All right, let's talk about our payload real quick. We carry 3 systems. We have the radio, APRS, and video. So from day one for the QSO radio, we just picked up these Kenwood THF6. These are great radios, by the way. If you find these at a flea market, grab it. They are just great. And the reason we liked it is because it's true dual band receive. So when you're listening to one frequency, you can actually hear traffic on another. And the reason we wanted that is while we are taking QSOs on the main QSO frequency, our person on the ground can give us updates on the other frequency without interrupting the QSO, which is usually weather update or, hey, Mark, you're getting too far off course. That happened today. Anyway, it turned out great. We replaced the handheld mic with this prime microphone. It's just more robust in the hand. Did I bring it up? Oh, no, I didn't bring that one. It's more robust in the hand, but because we're traveling at about 20-something miles an hour, you gotta put a sock on it. HF is a little bit more of a challenge. It's really difficult to, once again, real estate. Takes up more space. It's the safest way to attach the vest. Antenna storage and deployment, recording audio, propagation, and, other people on the band. We don't have the opportunity to, is this frequency clear? Is this frequency? No, too bad, we're taking it now. No, we're not that rude. So from day one, the good old FT817 QRP. There's our little schematic setup, and you're going, Rob, why do you have an audio mixer on there? That's because we still want to have our 2-meter radio and the HF radio going into this digital recorder. Yeah, so we had to be able to feed it into here, because that way, we really can't scribe up there too much. So we tried to rely on a digital recorder to catch all our QSOs. So here's Mark. This is one of his setups with the FT817, and you can see that the vest is open. You'll see that red donut thing. We'll talk about that in a second. So I'm going to play this, and then you can highlight it again. So this was an exciting contact. This audio here.
In California, DXing just reached a new record height as we hear from Karen Murray, 82 GUT.
So what exactly does a QSO sound like when it's 8 to 12,000 feet in the air? That was the pilot on 20 meters moving ham skydiver Mark Meltzer, AF6IM, on his Yates FT817 on March 31st. One of the team of parachute mobile hams, Mark had just stepped out of a plane over Byron, California, picking his way through the local pileup when this happened. Lloyd Rasmussen, W3IUU in Kensington, Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C. Yes, Maryland. When you're on the air and in the air in California, that counts as DX and a record for this team. Lloyd, a blind amateur radio operator accustomed to pilots and contests and DXing, said he'd heard about the California jump in an online group of other blind amateurs and decided to go for it.
So I quickly cranked my FT950 up to that frequency, turned the beam to the west, and listened, and right away, the frequency was pretty quiet, except there was a pilot of the California station trying to work in.
Then, as Mark tells it, success.
I heard Lloyd heard me, we exchanged call signs, and so we got a little contact.
But Mark couldn't get too excited at the moment.
Yeah, you really have to watch what you're doing, because if you pay too much attention and not enough navigation, you can end up being over a body of water or a freeway or someplace that doesn't have to.
Later,
We were very, very surprised and pleased to make the contact with Lloyd. I was just thrilled.
as for Lloyd,
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I've worked a lot of DX, I do a lot of contesting, and was running 100 watts on the FT950. It was quite an interesting and fun QSO.
DX, says Mark, is what you make it.
Although, it's not like working at Christmas Island or something for us, it was a week zero. We put it all the way across country on 2 watts.
Not a bad way to mark your 50th year as a skydiver and your 10th year as a ham, says Mark. You might just say this record's got him walking on air. For news about the team and their next jump, visit parachutemobile.wordpress.com. For Amateur Radio Newsline, this is Karen E. Murray, KD2 GT.
For bicycle enthusiasts in Australia, operating mobile was for
Okay, I didn't hit that part out. Hey, proof is in the pudding. We got the QSL card. Okay, I'm going to keep going, or did you have a comment on that? Okay. This here is the SG 2020. I never saw this until he found one. And it's a very cool rig. Marine, air, and ham radio. I think they have versions of that. This is kind of a QRP and a half. You can get about 20. And you jumped it a couple times. But it was a nice rig.
Yeah, they have a terrible reputation for the EM reviews, but I got this dirt sheet because of the terrible reputation, and it's been working fine for us.
Yeah. It's really simple to use in the air, too. All right, here's the setup we did for the G2020. That's all the equipment superimposed on the Molly vest. That's how we kind of get that all modularly set up and ready to go. Ooh, you got to tell us a story on this one.
Okay, well, as you know from my maritime experience and war surplus electronics, I still do a lot of a conversion of military surplus gear, ARC-5 gear, some of you know what that is, and ART-13 transmitters, BC-348 receivers. I just like the old military gear. So this is the walkie-talkie that you see in the World War II movies, the BC-611. It's a lot less than 1 watt. Most of them operate on 38, 85 kilohertz AM. And honestly, you can yell farther than you can communicate with these. But I had to try it, and I did.
Yep, and I think you had one contact. The gentleman down at the drop zone. But that was fun because we had to get some creative rigging for that. We had to, I think you can see at the bottom right, there's some twine, and we had to put it on her harness leg or something to make it safe. It was interesting how we did that. And you got your picture of that shot because we had someone photographing that. You can see he had to take his helmet off, clip the helmet to your harness to talk on it. So that was an interesting jump. All right, the Helicraft KX3. I had to give this a shot. It's a nice radio, QRP. It's lightweight, but a little fidgety in the air. There's the schematic setup that I did. It's easy to attach to the vest because it's so light. I just used some clips. But I found out later how to find the key lock or keypad mechanism. I forgot to hit the automatic tuner even though the antenna was somewhat in tune. And, well, here you go. Listen.
CQ, give us up 600 the first mobile.
Crickets, crickets.
Here's the traffic, but it's up frequencies. QCQ, Kilo Charlie 6, Tango Yankee Delta, Parachute Mobile.
You got the point. I think I did get a couple contacts, but for some reason they heard me off frequency and go, no, you were off frequency, but I think I bumped the dial, so I was off frequency. Anyway, I don't know if I'll jump it again, but it was worth the experiment. Also, you probably saw Velcro to the front of that, the digital recorder. You would think Hillcraft would put a recording module in these things, but all right, and of course I had to up that. This right here is a Manpack 891 using the Armorlock TPA 891B with the RC 1178 pouch. Bada bing, right here, folks. I was able to get this sucker on my chest. Really look good, and guess what? 100 watts. Actually, I put it at 60 to start with. This time I said, phooey with QRP. Let's get some power. The helmet is a skateboard helmet, and I went with these cool stereo headphones, and I stole that from Carlos, and I told him, because he was jumping that. I go, where did you get those? And today I wore it, and it's so clear. Guess what, folks? Check this out.
Okay, last go right here. QRZ, Parachute Mobile, QRZ. The Papa India station saying it. The Papa India station saying it. Papa India, got you up to location. Did you say New Hampshire, New Hampshire, New Hampshire saying it? Woo! Love it! New Hampshire, 3,800. Please email me at skylineNewHampshire@gmail.com so I can get you this up there. All right, everybody, I gotta pack it up. KC6, you ready?
Okay, I wasn't excited, right? But as I indicated, I was just about at that altitude where I got to start wrapping things up, and he came through, and I was just like, yes, thank you. Okay, HF antennas. What antennas have we used, and how do we manage them? Everybody says in Parachute Mobile, one of the first questions is, where's this big long antenna you're putting? So, well, we've used this. Actually, wait a second. The first one we were using for quite a while was this commercial. This is the from PAR, I think. Anyway, 10, 20, 40 meter Mark II. This comes in at a whopping 40.9 feet. And then one of our own members was pretty creative, and he started building this end-fed halfways. And we've had a couple of versions. This one's 39 feet. 35.9. I've tried the Pac-10s, as you saw in Carlos's video. It's okay, but the wire is just seems fragile to me. So you get the point. How we stow them, let's talk about that. First in, last out. So we were using a Ziploc gallon bag, shoving it all in, and you can see between the vest and Mark's chest, right there, you can see it sticking out. And that was it. That's how we stowed all 30-something, 40-something feet. And then you can see the balun we just attached to the side. And then keep in mind, we're only in the air for about 5 seconds. We deploy our parachute. And then once we have control of the parachute and everything's working good, then we can start bailing it out. Then we tried some other options. You'll see in the bottom left there, in that particular configuration, I just took 2 bites, about 10 feet each maybe. And then on on his thigh, there's this like military pouch that holds magazines, I guess. And so I put a bite in each one of those, and all you had to do was take a bite off, take that little paper, drop it, take another bite, drop it. It was a little bit faster, but I tell you, man, you want to see something really high tech? Can anybody see right there at the bottom of the antenna? What's that look like? It's a socket. It's a ratchet socket. I needed something to hold it down. And at the time I was building this, I need something heavy. It worked. All right, so you saw this donut-looking thing, and this was Steve, ACW over there sitting. It was his idea. Thanks, Steve. It worked, but it had a little bit of a flaw, and it's still something we're going to try to do. The idea was to just take this on a spool and then drop it. And bam, Bob's your uncle. However, I put this little Velcro thing on here to keep it spooled up correctly. And you'll see that it caused a little bit of a problem. Watch the timer up there, elapsed time so far before we've even said anything. Still digging at it, digging at it. Oh, got some tape off. I'm speeding it up now. So the idea works, but it had a glitch. So we're going to come back to that later. All right, anybody see this? This is becoming popular. The real podable antenna. Oh, here we go. Oh, thank you. Okay, this is based on a chalk line, right? And this is going to be about 30 feet, 6 inches, and you just reel it out. And I had it marked. Oh, there it is. I have paint right there. So the nice thing about this is you can check the SWR and tune it just by finding the sweet spot, and then that's it, and put a mark. And believe it or not, it's kind of bulky and awkward to hook onto your vest, but it actually wasn't too bad. That New Hampshire contact was by that antenna. And just so you can see how convenient it is, you saw how convenient it is to deploy it, but look how easy it is to bring it back up. There you go. No, not quite. Maybe 2,000 around then. All right. APRS. We talked a little bit about that. It was the Argent. There we go. Argent Data T2 301. We had a little daughter board that they put on for us, which allowed us to do biometrics. That is that SpO2 or oxygen saturation thing you put on your finger. And you click on APRS, and guess what? You'll get Mark's heart rate and his oxygen level. Sometimes you were excited. Eventually, those things we just wore it out, and they weren't making it anymore, and we couldn't find any more of those oxygen things to hook up, and so we started using this little Sansonic AP550, and it's okay, but you have to get a lock, and sometimes it wouldn't get a lock on a satellite, so there'd just be this long delay. But guess what? A year came by when they made this right here, folks. This kills 2 birds in one. The 5D, and we also have the 3D in our arsenal. So not only does this get APRS and get a beacon every 30 seconds, but guess what? It has an SD card for audio. I now can say, goodbye. I don't need to hook that up anymore. So it just sits right on the chest, and all it does is turn on, hit record, and it takes care of everything I need. Okay, our very first live streaming that we did was actually some equipment we borrowed from MDARC's ATV club, Mount Diablo Infiltrated Club. It was 1.2. This is back in 2010. It was Jim who actually wore it. So a friend of Mark's, who was a really good skydiver, and so he wore it, and the idea was that someone else was going to follow. And, oh, no, he was going to follow Michael Gregg there. Or was it you? No, it was you. And then he would take the video of him flying in canopy. We forgot to hit the play button on the VCR, because that's how long ago it was, or the record button. But the audio recordings we got was fabulous. Everybody says, whoa, this is so cool. And so, of course, now, once again, we set the bar, and from then on out, we had to have streaming video. But you can see how big and bulky that is. And so we started to experiment for a while. We did some 2.4, oops, we're going too fast here. 2.4, 3D printed stuff, patch antenna experimenting, all kinds of stuff, and it's trial and error. For our ham radios, we do that. And then we started using this little transmitter, and the theory is still unconfirmed, I guess. We were talking about it today. We need to put the transmitter on your ankle, because at that high frequency, if it's on your body, it just doesn't go anywhere. So to this day, we use the FlySight Black Mamba 2-watt 5.8. And we put it in a pouch, and it goes down on your leg. And we just turn it on, and it's supposed to work. But unfortunately, for all these years, our live streaming video is the bane of this whole thing for me. It's either going to work like a charm, or it fails us miserably. Because the wires are so small, we have to do all kinds of strain relief mechanisms, tape it down, make sure everything's charged up. And today was a failure because something was going on. I don't know what it was. It worked on the ground, but it wasn't working well in the air. So our goal is to find somebody out here, maybe some professional drone people that deal with this kind of stuff, because that's what we are as a human drone, that can give us some state-of-the-art digital resolution, because this is just NTSC analog. And we're working. That's a work in progress, but if you want like this, super high altitude, Baumgartner jumps from the stratosphere, and they have perfect video. We need thousands of dollars to do that. This was Troy back in Mission 26, and we'll show you what it looks like. We're actually surprised about this video because we're getting video while he's on the plane, and usually, I said it right then, but typically the plane is a ferret cage. All right, so he's out. You can see him jump there. Pulls his canopy. Oh, there it goes. He's going to do some maintenance and make sure he's on the correct heading. And that's the type of video we have. It's not the greatest, snow here and there. We use a circular polarized antenna rather than a rubber duck. Seems to help. There we go. And he starts making some QSOs. I've been using this Garmin, and it's digital, but by using this little HDMI converter with a power pack, which I forgot to turn on, seems to work okay, and that's the setup I've been using for a little bit. And this is just the harness configuration. One of the big problems working with small gauge wire, I was talking about that, strain relief. I eventually moved the battery from up on the vest, and now we just have a 6-volt Bioenno in the pouch. So that's one link that we don't have to worry about, and that's what it looks like. That's this pouch right here. And by the way, we're on 5.8. That is a ham band. So you'll see here, try to keep me legal. My call sign. Okay. We have a gentleman in our club that's been with us for practically day one. That's Michael Wright. And he is our air-to-ground guru. And this is when we started. You can see, yes, those are VHF CRT monitors. We were actually putting VHS in there to record back in the day. And then we get 4 point of views, air, LZ, that's the landing zone, PTZ camera on the top where we could get some, and then some ground crew camera watching us get everybody together. And this has been a development, but now he kind of went to the state of the art. We got some flat screens. He's got some DVR kind of electronics where he can push a button and start recording. Yeah, he put this to talk about a homebrew. All right, we also get recording straight off our the raw material, straight off the SD card, which is a lot clearer. So this video here will show you typically how each jump kind of progresses. So since we're doing what we call a high out, I have to go on first, and then we go out last. And then this is kind of the procedures that we go through. Anybody getting seasick yet? Yo! So you'll notice here I'm taking the J-pole out of a pouch on my ankle. I used to do that, but now I just put it on a little S-beater and throw it off. It's a lot easier. I can't bend over that far anymore. I'm getting too old. All right, so that's pretty much how it happens in the air. Right after I would deploy the antenna, I would start taking QSOs. But people tell me if I stop the video there, their OCD gets them. They have to see me land, so I apologize. Check out the shadow. I love the shadow effect. Thank you. That was good. Okay. We're actually almost done, so all those that like to go to bed at 8, sorry, but I'm almost done. We used to have our own DIY weather box station because we like to keep up with the weather, but now the drop zone has their own Davis Weather Link station, so all I do is go to the website, and so we're always constantly looking at the weather, and that's what I was explaining earlier. Drop zone's always keeping us up to date on the monitor frequency, the secondary frequency, so we know what the wind's like. And then just today, as I'm coming in for landing, Michael's going, winds 4 from the north, winds 4. And I'm going, okay, it's going to be a run-out landing, because I actually like about 10 to 14 miles an hour wind because it lets you stop faster, but that's okay. Anyway, I think this is the last video. Yeah, this was a windy day, and this is just to show you what a day where there's no wind, and when there's a day where the wind comes up and you get caught off guard. And well, check this out. Sunset load just means it's the last load of the day, regardless of what day it is. Okay, keep in mind that this is in real time. And you're going to see me do free fall because I'm not opening this isn't a parachute mobile jump. And you'll see in real time how long free fall is. It's about 59 seconds. And And I love the fact that it's late in the afternoon. Look how the sun does the contrast on the hills, the Altamont Hills there. Yep. Okay, about 148 miles an hour. I was wearing jeans and a sweatshirt, so I have a little bit of drag. And I still had time, so I was going to try to do some flips and spins, but they're really sloppy. Two sloppy tumbles. I think that was said 6. What is it at? Oh, I saw on the altimeter there. And I deploy. Okay, so when I took off, I knew winds were high, but just in the 20 minutes-ish from ground to going up to altitudes, you know, that's why they have windmills over there. Wind picks up. And it gets pretty windy, so you'll see on landing how that affects once you hit terra firma. So we land just like a plane does. We have a downwind, crosswind, and then into the wind for final. Did you see that? I released my RSL. I'm like, okay, let's move down. There's our crosswind now. Now the thing to keep in mind if there was no wind at all, when I made that left turn, it would be very defined. That's a left turn. And then for some reason, I thought I was too high, so I crabbed back out, and then I was going to crab back in. I should not have done that. See the white line in the ground? Keep your eye on that white line, and you tell me if I'm going forward here in a minute. Nope. Elevator. Yep. If I was a windsurfer, it would be a good day. So when you're expecting a windy landing, what you want to do is you want to grab one of your toggle lines. It's like flaps on a plane. And you want to reel it in so it takes the parachute and slams it into the ground, and then you won't go for the ride. But sometimes remembering to do that, you go for a little rodeo. And you can take it from here, Mark. Tell us about all our ground crew volunteers we've had over the years.
Okay, well, just to start out, Rob threw a couple of darts at Elecraft.
They're still good. They're definitely good. I like my Hillcraft.
I'm a huge fan. I mean, I'm an electrical engineer. When I look at the receiver performance that they can design and actually put into production, those are two very different things. I think it's a fantastic product. And another thing, Rob was talking about the physiotelemetry. You know, we've tried all sorts of different things that most of you never even see. We've done various PSK31. We've done this physiotelemetry. You're always fooling around.
I did a Whisper too.
Yeah. In fact, I've got a Whisper balloon up right now. Check it out. It just passed over the coast of China, headed towards the U.S. This morning. And it went over North Korea with no hostile action at 42,000 feet. So on the physiotelemetry, just one thing before we get into the volunteers. When you're in the sport a long time, I don't consider myself a macho guy. I'm pretty mellow. Don't get into all that, stuff. And but I see these people on the airplane who are making their first jump, and they're terrified. I mean, there's huge sweat under their arms. They're shaking. They're closing their eyes. And I sometimes say, yeah, I used to be like that. But the physiotelemetry showed it still terrifies me. And I didn't think it did. My resting heart rate's about 65, 66. There's no physical exercise involved in skydiving. You could be the most unfit person in the world in free fall. I mean, it's just falling, it's just gravity. So the physiotelemetry showed that during the skydive, my heart rate, just on fear, not on exertion, went up to 173. So I'm just kidding myself that it's no big deal. we've got terrific volunteers. You can see pictures of them here, Rachel and Steve. And I don't have my glasses. I can't identify
Well,
everybody
this is
here.
just a few we've had over the many years. They kind of rotate, we get groups, but Steve, stand up. K6WW. You probably saw him outside waving everybody, and Rachel's not here. James was there today. We only had 3 people manning the table. K1OKS, the voice of Parachute Mobile. You probably heard him on Parachute Control today. He is the greatest narrator and keeps people motivated and informed on the air. Of course, Michael Wright on the video. The list goes on. We would not have Parachute Mobile if we didn't have a volunteer crew on the ground. And I start to panic because when we don't have enough people, I'm going, oh, this is going to be crazy. Because we actually have media updates too. We try to, people aren't like here, especially when we're doing HF, we try to keep our media updated when the jumps are coming up. So if they're on HF, they can be ready to listen for us. So that's a person. Photography, we try to get a lot of photos because that QSL card's one of a kind. Yeah.
And we're always looking for more.
That's right.
Yeah, any of you can volunteer. You don't have to be a skydiver. You don't have to be an active ham. Just come out and help out. It's actually pretty fun. You hang out in drop zone for a day.
When you're up on that hill, when I'm done with these guys, you talk to everybody around the valley. Trust me, you don't have much power at all. Yeah.
So I'll leave the finishing. Are we pretty
Sure.
busy?
Yeah. Well, this is it. The future is what we decide to make it, and what more kind of modifications that we need to do. But just one thing about skydiving, that you don't need a parachute to jump once. You have to jump twice.
And
Anyway.
my closing remark is I'm a skydiving addict, but I'm in a one-step program, one step out the door.
There you go. We won't be starting Parachute Mobile now until spring. We take a hiatus during winter, fall and winter here. So sometime around April, May, when it stops raining, go to parachutemobile.org. We're also on Facebook, and we'll keep you updated. And I think that's it. Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Did I cover up things?
Maybe.
Oh, there's stuff here.
We can take questions. Want to take questions?
Oh, and if they have time, I don't know. I'll tell you what, we'll just be outside if you have questions or something, if that works.
That'll work.
Okay.
Yeah. So we just want to say thank you very much for Mark for being our keynote speakers, and so we have these little gift cards for you.
Thank you.
So thank you so very much.
I'll come and get this.